Welcome to the Mental Fitness Podcast in partnership with Eliza Chat, where we explore real tools and stories for building mental strength in the modern world.
Mental health is generally understood as a state of well-being, right? So meaning you're in this state of well-being, your mental health is generally well. So what is mental fitness? Mental fitness is about the skills and the habits that help you stay that way.
Yeah. I think even if you make the analogy to physical fitness, their health is, when we talk about physical health, we know what physical health is. Physical fitness is having part of our routine and our activities, things that keep us strong and healthy.
Yeah, to sustain that physical health, right? So the definition, as we say it, is that mental fitness is the active process of strengthening your mind's ability to handle stress, build self-awareness, and recover from setbacks.
Yeah, it's not therapy or crisis care. It's not passive. It's not one size fits all.
Yeah. One way to look at it is if good mental health equals not sick, for lack of better words, then mental fitness equals ready for life's challenges.
So that's what mental fitness is. It's an active process, not just a state that you're in. But here's the thing. Knowing what it is only half the story. It's really, how do we incorporate it into our daily lives?
Yeah. And to simplify it, we frame mental fitness around three key pillars. And these pillars were, defined or created after years of building, our product, our company around this concept, working side by side with licensed clinicians and behavioral experts, talking to users. So we've really tried to boil it down to something practical around these three key pillars. In these areas we see as most essential if you want to grow your capacity for stress, emotional intelligence, resilience, and overall well-being.
Yeah. And maybe just before we jump into those three pillars, just one more analogy on sort of what mental fitness is.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like brushing your teeth and going to the dentist to get a cavity filled or to have a root canal would be maybe going to a therapist. If we're talking about mental health, in that things happen. And sometimes, with the dental analogy, sometimes you have to go get a cavity filled or you have to have something more serious done and you need to go to a licensed dentist and have that done. And sometimes we have been through stuff, we've had trauma, we've had things happen in our lives, and we really need to have professional mental health care. But if we're not brushing our teeth, we're going to have a whole lot more of those problems in our life. We're going to be back regularly, and eventually all our teeth are going to fall out, and it's not how we're going to be healthy. So mental fitness is like good teeth brushing, flossing, all of those things, avoiding the sugary foods and things. It's all those things that keep your mouth healthy. And going to the dentist to have something done is more like seeing your therapist and stuff.
Yeah. No, that's a great analogy, a way to look at it. Okay, let's break down these pillars of mental fitness as we define it one by one, starting with, maybe let's name the three: connection to self, connection to others, and health and vitality. Those are the three pillars, right?
Yeah,
so
they're all important.
Yeah.
Connection to self is all the things about emotional intelligence and self-awareness and being able to regulate your emotions. Connection to others is belonging, having relationships with other people.
Empathy.
Having empathy for others, being part of a community, being part of a family, or having, those kind of relationships in your life.
Yeah.
And then health and vitality is, again, we're talking about mental wellness and mental fitness, but health and vitality plays such an important role because they're so intertwined. And that's, are we sleeping well? Are we eating well? Are we moving and exercising?
Yeah, exactly.
We can jump into each one in more detail, but that's the high level.
Yeah. Great overview there. So connection to self, self-awareness, emotional literacy, regulation, nervous system regulation. So one way, naming emotions in itself is massive, right? So a lot of people call it emotional literacy, right? Understanding. Analogy I like to think about here is imagine you only know a few words for colors. Now stick with me in this analogy. Colors like bright and dark. Imagine that's all you know about colors, right? It's hard then to describe a rainbow or a sunset or something like that if you only know bright and dark. Many people are that way with their emotions. Many of us, right? We only know a few words like mad or sad to describe how they feel. But if you learn more words and feelings like frustrated, annoyed, irritated, instead of just mad, it helps you understand what's really going on inside you, right? It makes it easier to handle those feelings as well.
There's important nuance in those words, and it helps in communicating to others how you're feeling, but also just communicating and understanding yourself. Because like anger or being mad is different from being frustrated or being annoyed or disappointed.
Yeah.
And they have different ways to address them. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that deeper introspection, right, also allows for more targeted strategies.
Mm-hmm. And in traditional therapy, a lot of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is sort of understanding some of this, being able to name emotions or emotional intelligence. There's lots of ways to approach this, but a lot of what is done in mental health is helping us to understand and name the emotions and how we're feeling and maybe why we're feeling that way.
And I think it's important just to talk about a few of the benefits, right? I know it sounds simple, like naming emotions, understanding what you're feeling, but there's evidence-based benefits, right? One is improving your emotional regulation. Overall, just feeling less overwhelmed. You're happier and healthier. It calms your brain. It actually does something in your amygdala, right? When you're pinpointing those exact emotions in detail. And then you're also able to communicate better with friends and family as well if you have that emotional literacy.
Yeah. Then another area of connection to self is checking in with yourself, journaling, self-reflection. Mm-hmm. For religious people, this is often sort of prayer, meditation, taking time to reflect on things. Journaling is really effective because you're the process of putting your thoughts into words and actually writing them down. So it's all this process of just taking time with yourself to understand, whether it's morning, midday check-ins, or at the end of a day, what happened today? How do I feel about it? What's my experience with it? This is a big one for people working through difficult times and trials, but it's also just an important thing with connecting to ourselves is taking time to reflect and sort of connect with more macro level what's happening in my life. Checking in with our feelings might be, I had an interaction. Someone came and said something unkind to me, or someone came and said something really nice to me, and I'm understanding how I'm responding to that. Whereas sort of connecting with yourself in terms of reflection and journaling is more, I'm just going to pause and look back at the last day or the last week or the last month and sort of think about where I am. And that's important and also has lots of benefits. That's a big one for reducing stress, improving our mood, knowing where you are, recognizing progress. Nothing's more motivating in life than progress. And when you take time regularly to reflect and journal, that's a good way to recognize progress.
It's also, well, just as you're saying that, like it's can be hard to take time. Like there's intent behind all these things, just like brushing your teeth for dental hygiene, right? Like you have to be intentful about that, and twice a day or whatever. But same with this, like.
Well, and I'm glad you said that because rewind several years before I was working in the mental health space as much, I would hear people talk a lot about self-care.
Yeah.
And I love the idea. I agree with the idea. Yeah, we got to take care of ourselves. But to me,
I don't have time for that.
To me, it always seemed like what I visualized when someone said self-care. And it was, maybe a woman getting her nails done.
Or in a bubble bath.
Or getting a massage.
Yeah.
And those can all be parts of self-care.
Sure.
But I've come to understand self-care is making time to journal.
Yeah.
To ponder.
Reflect.
To understand your emotional state and why you're feeling that way. So these are very, like you said, intentional things that we do that we have to prioritize and make time for. And they are self-care. Self-care is not just I'm going to eat my favorite food and watch my favorite show while I'm getting a massage and soaking my feet in warm water. I'm sure that's an element of self-care. I enjoy sitting in a hot tub and getting a massage from time to time. But it's more these daily and regular habits of checking in with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Another area in connection to self is just breath work and mindfulness. And we've had a lot of episodes, previous episodes on this, so I won't go too deep. But in fact, in one of our previous episodes with a nervous system expert, we talked a lot about the term window of tolerance.
And that was the small is big, slow is fast, and
small is bigger episode. Yeah, go listen to that. But this window of resilience or window of tolerance, breath work and mindfulness are just a few of those tools to calm the nervous system and shift from more, really create space to shift from more impulsive reactions to considered responses, right?
These are tactics in the moment when you're feeling overwhelm or anger or frustration, and it's a way to calm yourself down so that you're going to react, whether the way you respond to a family member or to a boss at work or something, that you're going to do that on your best self instead of in a highly emotionally charged state.
Yeah, your calm down button, right?
Yeah. Another one, again, in that same episode, we went into a lot of details on the nervous system, but another area of connecting with self is understanding and noticing nervous system signals. So when you are feeling on edge, when you're feeling really stressed, or like you're about to lose your temper, or you're feeling those things, understanding that how your body's feeling and how it's affecting your emotions. And like I said, we went into great detail of that, but that's another aspect of connection to self.
Yeah, that's connection to self. If you can't name it, you can't change it. Internal self-awareness creates that space between reaction and intention. So that's the first pillar, is connection to self.
The second pillar of mental fitness is connection to others. And this is a big part of belonging. This is our interaction with others, which there's a lot of self-work here. Are we empathetic and kind, and are we being a good friend, family member, whatever, to the people in our lives? But do we also have people in our lives? Do we have connections? These can be things belonging to a community, which if you belong to a church or you belong to some sort of club, or anytime you're in a group of people where you have a shared value or a shared something in common. But this is so important. And in 2025, in modern society, we're more isolated than ever before. We have an epidemic of loneliness. Social media is the biggest oxymoron as a name. It makes us less social and less connected to people. And so it's in a time where technology has such incredible power to bring people together, but the way most of us are using it most of the time, we're isolating ourselves. This is just so important to understand. You cannot be mentally fit if you do not have healthy relationships in your life. And that, do you know how to talk to people? Do you know how to be truly empathetic and supportive of others? And do you have people that are that way for you?
Yeah, it's funny you talk about social media, right? Because, at face value, you think, I have, 10,000 followers. I'm connected to 10,000 people. So 32% of adults report loneliness, 43% for Gen Z. Almost half of Gen Z report loneliness. Our social networks, and I'm not talking about your Facebook social network, our social networks have shrunk 33% since 1985. And then this one's the craziest. Social disconnection, as you said, it's so important, right? Social disconnection, in a Surgeon General report, said is just as dangerous as smoking. I think he even said it's as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes.
Right, for health.
For health.
Loneliness, yeah.
For your mental health.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're hardwired for social connection. As human beings, we're hardwired for this. So our mental well-being is deeply intertwined with this ability to maintain healthy connection.
One of the things that we learned in a previous episode is that humans are different from all other animals in the way they respond to a traumatic experience, in that the animal, it's fight, flight, or fawn, but the human, the first tendency to any time we've had some traumatic experience is seeking social connection. When something happens to us, we immediately want to connect with someone and tell them about it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe what happened. Or we want to call a loved one and feel that support. And then also fight, flight, and fawn are sort of our natural physiological responses. But we're different from a wild animal in that we seek social connection as a coping mechanism beyond that. And just to reiterate that, when we say connection to others, this is not the number of connections on LinkedIn or number of followers on Instagram. Couldn't be further from the truth. This is the number of people that you see in real life or talk to on the phone, that you have
meaningful relationships,
conversations with, real interactions with, not just liking a post, or commenting on a post.
Yeah. So actual human connection, meaningful relationships, that's a huge part of that pillar of connection to others. Another is just empathy, like learning to empathize, right? And understand and share feelings and communicate, right? It's actively listening or, trying to see things from someone else's perspective. That's, and I would say that takes one, education, but two, practice, right? You're not going to do that over social media either.
Right. And also understanding healthy boundaries. I think it's important from a self-awareness. If we want to foster healthy connections to others in our life, we have to understand what healthy boundaries are, that we don't overstep. But we also need to be able to set boundaries for ourselves. We may have friends or family members or people in our lives that try to impose too much on us, and we need to be able to set the proper boundaries so that those connections remain strong and healthy and not manipulative or unhealthy in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last kind of area in this umbrella of connection to others is asking for help. So a huge part of, like you said, self-care is that act of vulnerability, of asking for help and like reaching out.
Yeah. And just a note on this is important for everyone to be able to ask for help and reach out. But the middle-aged men is a demographic that this is probably most difficult for. This is difficult for teenagers to reach out to adults. Teenagers tend to reach out to each other, and that's good. But sometimes if the scope of their problems are beyond what their peers can help them with, they might be really struggling with depression or something, and they're not reaching out to adults. That can be a problem. But for everyone, this can be a struggle. But one demographic, middle-aged men, where suicide rates are the highest in our society, it's sort of a little bit in Western society, the cultural norm to just white knuckle it and just get through it. And it's my job to provide and work and do, and it's not my job to check in with my emotions and be vulnerable. And we've had lots of guests that have talked about how hard that was for them to learn. But that's an important part of connecting to others, is being vulnerable and willing to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah. It's a sign of strength, right? Not weakness. Okay. So that's connection to others, right? So we talked about connection to self being the first pillar. Second pillar, connection to others. And the third key pillar is, as we talked about, health and vitality, right? So this is all about how your body helps your mind.
Yes. Yeah. And they're so intertwined. We cannot be really happy when our bodies are in a bad state. And when we're miserable, they're symbiotic in their relationship. People who are suffering from depression or extended periods of high stress or anxiety, that has real impact on your physical health. And that has real impact on your lifespan and your physical health. And reverse, when we're not eating well, we're not exercising, we're not sleeping well, those things are devastating to our mental health. The good news is we can control those things. And a lot of the stuff that people deal with mental health, sometimes when we're dealing with past trauma or genetic dispositions to certain things, there's sometimes not a lot of those things that we can control. We can't change the past. But one thing we can all control 100% is whether we're getting exercise every day, whether we're giving ourselves opportunity for sleep 7, 8, 9 hours a day, and whether we're eating healthy. And or did I say that?
Yeah.
I guess exercising, the 3: exercise, nutrition, sleep.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are most in our control,
Right.
and can have the most immediate impact on our well-being.
Yeah. And we've had episodes, we won't go too deep into these things, sleep, nutrition, movement.
We've had deep episodes on each one of those.
And we'll have more and more episodes.
Yeah.
So we won't go into those too much, but I do think there's some stats that are, a little bit alarming and as far as like some awareness around these areas. So one is how Americans are doing in these areas. So I'm going to talk about sleep for a second. More than 1/3 of American adults do not get enough sleep. Nearly 9 in 10 adults, so 88%, who report good sleep satisfaction are flourishing in life, while less than half of those with poor sleep experience that same level of well-being. That's just sleep, right? Like if you could choose one thing, the data's there, right? Like that's one way.
Well, and I think from the data's there and from everything we've learned with our clinical advisory board and all the conversations is that is the one thing.
Yeah.
That can have the most immediate impact. When someone is just on the edge, out of their window, overwhelmed, stressed, in a bad mental state, a good night's rest can do more for that person than any therapy, any medication, any exercise, any, social interaction. Just sleep.
Yeah.
Because our mind and our body rejuvenate themselves when we have healthy sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the 3 pillars?
Connection to self, which is really about understanding our emotions, understanding our nervous system, the way we respond in certain situations, checking in with ourselves, taking time for reflection, journaling, being able to express ourselves when needed, those types of things.
Yeah.
It's connection to self. And then second one,
connection to others, right? So meaningful relationships, actual like physical connection, not just on social media. And then
and one thing we didn't really talk about physical touch very much.
Yeah, true.
But I have a lot of boys, sons, and I heard someone, and there was science quoted about hugging and 7-second hugs, that a hug becomes meaningful after about 5-7 seconds.
Oh, really?
I give my boys 7-second hugs every day.
Wow.
And it was at first awkward, and the teenagers at first resisted, but they love it now. I have a 17-year-old son, and I've told him about this, and so I'll see him and he'll just go, 7-second hug, Dad. but physical touch can do so much, and a hug is good. A 7-second hug is great.
I'm gonna have to try that out.
No, try it. It's
longer hugs.
The connection goes up after about 5 seconds.
Now, if you ever give your kids a 2-second hug, they're like, something's off with Dad.
Dad doesn't like me today. He only hugged me for 2 seconds.
And then the third pillar is health and vitality, right? So sleep, movement, nutrition being the basis. So a couple questions in reflection, both for, I think maybe each of us can answer this as well as our listeners, right? So which of these pillars do you feel strongest in right now?
I think throughout my life, connection to others has come easy to me, and I've been very fortunate. I grew up in a wonderful family. I'm part of a thriving church community. I have great friends. I have not struggled to connect with others. I make friends.
That makes sense. So much sense.
I have a lot of good people in my life. I have an amazing wife. I have great children. And it doesn't mean that all those relationships are always perfect all the time, but I have a lot of people that I can lean on when I need to.
Yeah.
That's my biggest, for sure, for me personally, that's my biggest strength.
Yeah.
What about for you?
Health and vitality for sure. There was just something that happened like when I, turned 30. I was like, man, I gotta take care of myself. So I really prioritize that a lot, all those areas. And I see massive benefit from it.
You're the one that teaches me all these things.
but if I could
and motivate me, I'm actually improved in these areas just by me trying to be a little bit more like you.
Well, I appreciate that. But if I would rank them, it would be health and vitality, number 1, connection to self, number 2, connection to others is, and that's maybe another question. What pillar do you think you can improve the most? That's mine, is connection to others.
Yeah, interesting. We're probably the exact opposite because I think second for me is probably connection to self, and then third is health and vitality. And it's not that I think I'm generally healthy.
Yeah,
I stay active.
I say you're above average,
but I let sleep get away from me at times. I'm not a great eater. I don't stay consistent in exercising as much as I should. That's definitely the area where I see the most improvement. Where I could benefit from the most improvement.
Yeah, connection to others for me, it's just it's this digital world we live in. Like that's something I've realized so much since being at our company, and this podcast is this digital world can wreak so much havoc on all these areas, and it isolates us. You think you're connecting with people, you think you're sharing a meme or sending something on social media, like that's your way to connecting with someone, but it does not fill the gap there.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I have no social media. I have LinkedIn, which could kind of be categorized social media.
Sure.
But I have no other social media, and I haven't for years. And yet I feel that that's the best part of my life is connection to others. Even though
true.
I often hear about big things in people that I really love. I hear about big things in their life later than everyone else, or I hear it secondhand through joint friends, and because I miss out on that social media. But for me, that area of my life is not lacking because I'm cut off from social media. I think maybe it's partly why it's better, but I mostly cut it off for connection to self reasons, not necessarily connection to others. But I do want to make just a point on connection to others. It being an introvert or an extrovert, that's not what connection to others is. I am extroverted, and connection to others is the maybe strongest area of my life, but it's not necessarily because I'm an extrovert.
Right. An
introverted person with a smaller but meaningful group of connections can and often do have better meaningful relationships than extroverted people that have a lot of superficial relationships. So this is not how do I improve connection to others? I need to become more extroverted. That's not what this is.
That's a very important point. And you said a key point, meaningful relationships, not quantity of relationships, right? So you could have one or two. It could be your mom, a sibling, a friend. It doesn't matter. Those meaningful relationships, even in small quantity, are most important.
So if our nature is to be more introverted, it doesn't mean, oh, great, I'm just going to connection to others part of my life is going to always struggle. That's not at all the case.
I think that's a good point.
But in the extreme, the introvert who isolates themselves because social interactions can be uncomfortable has to understand that they're dooming their wellness.
Yeah.
We cannot be happy, and we cannot be mentally fit, and we cannot have a fulfilling life by ourselves. That's impossible.
Well, it's also interesting how intertwined the three pillars are, right? Because what I would say for those that I'm introverted, and I know what you're talking about, and I agree with that. But I would say focus on the two other pillars, and it will make connection to others easier.
Yeah,
if you're an introvert.
Oh, the healthier, happier person is a better friend.
Exactly. And for me, even just going to the gym, that's where I have social connection.
Yeah.
If there's any place, that's where
I was telling me about some interesting person you met.
That's where I network or talk to people. So.
Right. Yeah. And then I think also just kind of keep on these themes of what it means to be, if you have health and vitality, this does not mean that you are the super physically fit triathlete with 2% body fat who's
exactly
totally chiseled, who eats, a very extreme healthy diet and never maybe enjoys a cheeseburger or whatever. That's not, who's very rigid on their sleep and
Totally.
and all these other areas of life. But if you're eating junk, you're not exercising, and you're not sleeping well, you're doomed.
Again, it's being intentional, right?
Yeah.
It's not being perfect. If you, going back to your dental analogy, if you miss your brushing your teeth one night, does that mean you're going to have cavities the next day? No, right? It's like, you don't have to be perfect. Just be intentional about your sleep, be intentional about what you consume and eat, and be intentional about some kind of movement. It has to be a 5-minute walk, right? So I think that's a good point. You don't have to be some superstar.
Right, because some of the happiest people I know, they are generally healthy, but they may not be like super fit gurus.
Yeah.
Right, but the lack of those things can just and even really happy people, when they're going through health challenges, when we're not feeling well physically, it's hard to be happy. It's tough. And so people that are dealing with chronic pain and other physical health challenges that are long-term, that's a hard thing to deal with. And you got to learn how to deal with it. That doesn't hinder your happiness. That doesn't necessarily limit your ability to be happy. I mean, it plays a part in it. But it doesn't control whether you're happy or mentally fit. But in the ideal, when we feel good, when we feel healthy, when we are healthy, we feel good.
Yeah. So hopefully, again, we've spent years and hundreds of hours thinking about mental fitness, and we want to provide a simplified version of like, hey, it's not crazy hard. These 3 pillars, you can all go and try being intentional about these 3 areas today. And the cool thing as well, one plug is Eliza Chat, our company. That is the 3 pillars of mental fitness in the product.
Yeah. Right. And it's an app that you can install. You go to the website, elizachat.com. You want to sign up. And it's designed it's AI powered, trained by licensed clinicians and therapists and sleep and nutrition experts to help you in these areas. The primary features around connecting to self, being able to vent and talk about things and brain dump, get those ideas out and get feedback and thoughts and all that. But it's also around helping you develop good health and vitality habits around sleep and exercise and nutrition, and being able to connect with others and role play conversations. You need difficult conversations with others and understanding all those aspects of your life.
Yeah.
I think it's also helpful if we maybe just dive in to some specific things with each of these areas that we can do. I mean, we've talked a little bit about some of them, but maybe just for the listener who says, yeah, this sounds great, where do I start?
Yeah. Health and vitality. I mean, sleep, number one, just be intentional about sleep. Focus on your relationship with sleep first and foremost. And you go listen to our previous episode with Dr. Jade Wu to understand what that means.
Yeah, when we stress about not getting enough sleep, we can actually be counterproductive.
Yeah.
It can negatively impact our ability to sleep well when we're constantly thinking, I got to get those 8 hours. I got to get those 8 hours.
Right.
Dang it, I woke up early. I only got 7 hours. I'm behind. That actually is counterproductive. But the biggest thing we can do to improve our sleep is put your dang phone away an hour before you're going to go to bed. And if you use your phone as your alarm, set it an hour before. Have a cutoff. If you go to bed at 10, at 9 o'clock, phone goes to bed. And you don't touch the phone. Limiting screen time, and whatever it is for you, like whatever window of time it is. But how many people are laying in bed late at night, scrolling through things on their phone? That's probably in modern society, the number one detriment to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good on sleep. We gave a little tips on movement. You don't have to go, build a bodybuilding career for exercise, right? But it can be as simple as, taking 10-minute walk after you eat a meal, or just literally moving, even standing up, making sure you're standing up enough times in a day if you work. And then I'd say for nutrition, just trying to eat less processed foods, educate yourself on the brain gut health connection, and eat whole foods.
And just on the walk, I for weight loss, long walk is more effective than intense cardio.
Yeah, I know, 100%.
And so a long walk or a walk. But walks are also a wonderful time for self-reflection. I used to always, when I was riding a bike or going on a run or going on a walk, or I was always listening to something. I had to be listening to an audiobook. And I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts and things, but I even had waterproof headphones and a case for my phone so I could be listening to talks when I was years ago. But I realized I need time for self-reflection.
Yeah.
And while 99% of my car driving time, I'm listening to an audiobook or something, I've found that when I'm exercising, I can kill two birds with one stone if I just get rid of the headphones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to listen to a book while I'm jogging or going on a walk or going on a bike ride. That's a good time to just reflect. And so I think that some form of movement without anything else interfering for me it's been a kind of a two bird with one stone on mental fitness.
When you kind of transition to connection to self, practical ideas there, right? Like unplug. Mm-hmm. Literally those earbuds, but also just disconnect from the world. I read something the other day. It's like set a timer and make yourself intentionally bored for 15 minutes. Nothing. Just boredom. For 15 minutes, seek out boredom, or else you will not be mentally well. Yes.
I tell my kids all the time when they're bored, I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
And they're like, what, Dad? We got to go do something. I'm like, no.
You're so lucky.
Enjoy this. Creativity comes out of boredom.
Right.
Boredom is when we come to know ourselves.
Yeah.
And just a tip for parents, the goal is not to remove boredom from our children's lives.
Yeah, constantly entertained.
Sure, we want activities. We want things happening in their lives, things that they can do and they're interested in. But to be bored, to be on a car drive where we don't have a movie playing, just to be like, no, for the next 30 minutes as we drive, we're just going to just look outside.
Yeah.
Count the signs. I mean, whatever. Boredom's good. I like that. Intentionally being bored for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Anything else in connection to self? I mean, we talked about journaling, mindfulness.
Journaling is good. For me, I'm religious. Prayer is a big part of. I mean, I would say that's connection to the spiritual connection to God.
Yeah. But
in our definition, that would fit in connection to self. It's where I'm by myself in thoughtful prayer.
It's reflective,
and connecting. And that's where I draw a lot of meaning and power from those experiences.
Yeah. I love that. And then in connection to others, some practical ideas. One I'd say that I've thought about a lot recently is start practicing this at home, or like where you are. Meaning it's easy to think like, oh, I need to go hang out with friends, or I need to rekindle these lost relationships and go to lunch with this friend. But the easiest place and arguably the most impactful place to do this is at home, or in your college dorm with your roommates, or, so put away the phone at night or something. Try to connect with your family first, or those around you first.
Yeah, how many families are sitting around the living room at night, all buried in their own phones?
Exactly.
Existing in the same room, but not connecting.
So connect with others first where you live, in your home, wherever that is, right? And then you can replicate that to the outside world.
For me, a big part of connecting to others is service. I think it's easy when we talk about mental fitness to think about how each of these serve ourselves. And so when we think of connection to others, we might think, how can all these people in my life serve my need to be connected? Mm-hmm. And that's true. We have a need to be connected to others. But if we approach it that way, I think a better way to approach it, I would say, is how can I help the people in my life? And so if we approach it from a standpoint of service, this is another one that's killing two birds with one stone. When I do something meaningful or nice or service-oriented for one of my kids or for my wife or one of my friends, it strengthens my relationship and connection with that person, but it just feels good.
Yeah. I think those are some good, simple things listeners can try to work on in these 3 pillars of your mental fitness.
Yeah. And as mentioned, all the other episodes of this podcast, kind of, some of them go real deep on one very, very specific area of this, but we try to cover all these areas through the types of guests that we bring on. We have nutritionists, we have sleep experts, we have exercise experts, we have we have psychologists and therapists with all different areas of expertise. We talk to individuals in their own mental health journey, athletes, former athletes, all kinds of things. We try to cover the basis on all this, and there's also more information at mental.fitness website or at elizachat.com.